Welcome back to another episode of the Swing Hard podcast. I am super excited about today because I've got a great friend here, Lisa. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, Barry, thrilled to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
So let's get right into it because I know this is going to be an engaging conversation. It's going to be a lot of fun. Coupled with you beating me in a long drive competition, we're going to go into a lot of different things. But maybe you can start by just telling us a little bit about your background, what you got you into golf, a little bit about your history with golf.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. My dad was the golfer in the family, and he played, and he wanted both my sister and I to join. And so he took me to one junior night when I was in about grade 8.
Okay.
And there were 60 boys and me. And the coach kind of, took one look at me. He said, Lisa, why don't you hit your 6-iron at the end of the range? And then he proceeded to work with the boys the rest of the evening.
Wow.
I think junior golf has just come so far since the 80s, if I'm dating myself. And so, so I maybe played 9 holes a year with my dad if he forced me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really pick it up until my 20s when my boyfriend at the time, now husband, had just graduated from university. And as we all know, golf is a key business networking skill.
Right.
And so he didn't play. He grew up as a farm kid in rural Alberta. And so we went out to the local municipal courses wherever we could afford to get on and play. And that's where my passion for golf started.
Wow. So you went to a golf clinic or a school once in grade 8.
Yep.
See, this is new. I'm learning.
Right?
Yeah.
You and I have been friends for how long? And you're
a
finding
long
out new
time.
things, right?
And then, not a great experience, which I'm glad and I agree with you that junior golf's coming a long ways. We've got a long ways to go.
Yeah.
And we could certainly talk a lot about that as well. But then you didn't really, played once in a while periodically with your dad.
Yes, that's it. And then it was, you know what my big game changer was? In 1999, the LPGA came to Calgary, and Calgary only gets the LPGA once, maybe every decade.
Right.
And so at the time it was the Demorier Classic, back when, cigarette companies were allowed to sponsor sporting events. And I was a 30-plus handicap, couldn't break 100 to save my life. And I was a marshal, which is kind of funny because, as you know, Barry, holding the quiet sign might be a little bit of an oxymoron for me. And but watching the best female players on the planet was so inspiring to me. After that week, I was like, I want to compete in golf, although I couldn't break 100 to save my life.
Really?
That's how it started.
Okay, so let's go from the time that you started and still, you've had a great career. You're the 8-time Canadian long ball champion. You've competed at the World Championships.
Yes.
You've placed extremely well many times. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's just remarkable. It's something that's never been accomplished anywhere else. You're from Calgary. You're a great friend. We want to hear more about that experience.
Well, thank you.
Well.
Yeah, I'm so proud to be a born and raised Calgarian. And for me, like everyone asks me, how did you get into long drive, right?
Right.
And so after the event in 1999, I competed in like the Alberta mid-handicap, handicaps like 12 and up, much up. And I came kind of near, halfway, 3/4 of the way through the pack, but I was hitting it 80 to 100 yards past the other girls. And I always played with men, so I didn't know I was long until I played with ladies. And then by 2001, I just got my handicap down to an 11, I think, and I just snuck into the Alberta Amateur.
Okay.
And so I came near the end of the pack, but I was hitting it up to 50, 60 yards past some of the NCAA girls.
Wow.
And that's when I knew I was long. And I saw an advertisement for a long drive competition, and I entered, and I won with a 313-yard drive with a set of clubs from Costco. So that's literally how it started.
Plug for Costco. Not that they're ever going to see this, but that's okay. But that's amazing. So, you hit it straight, even with, your long distance. Did you always hit it straight? Like even when you were kind of in the mid-handicap range?
Well, I think for me, I always took a good rip at it. And I think that was the difference, is that my background is as a gymnast. So I competed in the sport of trampoline and tumbling before trampoline becoming an Olympic sport. So that sport is very much about explosive power, speed, flexibility, balance, all transferable to golf. So I think that really helped me not only hit it straight, but hit it a long way. And I think people think, well, she just hits her driver far. Like when I'm at 155 yards, I'm using an 8-iron. Whereas when I had done a Monday qualifier for the LPGA, some of the girls were using a hybrid from 155, 160. So, I'm coming in with a lot shorter clubs, which are easier to control. But boy, oh boy, my short game, Barry, that could use some work.
Then you and I need to be practicing this next summer together.
Exactly.
Because I tell people, like, my best club in the bag, and my team hears this all the time, is driver. I usually hit it really straight.
Oh yeah.
But I'll shank a wedge with the best of them all the time.
Right. I know. Or draw. You on and 2 on a par 5 and 3 putt for par.
Oh yeah. Or 4 putt.
Or 4.
Yeah. Why not? Make a bogey. Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I want to dive a little bit into some of the competitions you've had, because I think, that those are remarkable stories. We want to hear a little bit more about that. Maybe tell us one of the best experiences you've ever had, whether it's Canadian, whether it's a World Long Drive Championship. Tell us a little bit about some of those experiences.
I would have to say it would be coming my top finish at the World Long Drive Championships. And there's so many, like winning my first national title. There's winning my first tour event on the LDA tour. Like there's so many neat events. But if I had to just pick one, it would be coming second in the world at the World Long Drive Championships in Mesquite, Nevada. I had been competing in the sport of long drive for about 10 years at that point. And everyone told me that, Lisa, once you become a mom, you'll never be world class again. And so I always, it was too important to me not to become a mom. So I became a mom in 2007. And then it was actually 2011 that I came second in the world. I lost by 3 yards to the 5-time World Long Drive champion, Sandra Karlberg from Sweden. So, oh man, but to hit it over 3 in, NFL football fields and lose by, 3 strides, that was tough to take.
Absolutely.
But just to get there, and as I advanced through, and then to know that my son, like what a great story to tell my son that here I achieved the top finish at World Championships after becoming a mom. So I want to inspire other women to say, just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't be world class.
Right. And, that's such a small margin. And what people I don't think realize, I mean, maybe people do that are golfers, but the actual grid that you hit into, there's hot parts of those grids where the ball goes farther and how your ball actually lands. Like,
for sure.
I've watched enough long drive.
Yep.
You've done it professionally.
Yes.
And man, some of the best shots actually aren't rewarded, like some of the poor shots in some regards, just the way the ball hits in these grids.
No question. I mean,
3 strides is really nothing.
Oh, right.
Long drive,
and so it was so close, but I just I was so proud. I was so proud.
Yeah,
and again, to advance through those rounds and still to be competing to this day. Now, of course, COVID has thrown a little bit of a wrench into it, but the World Long Drive Championships for the past several years has been run by the Golf Channel, but over COVID, Golf Channel restructured a little bit, and unfortunately, World Long Drive was dropped from their profile. So there's sort of been 2 events that are kind of hosting world-class long drive competitions, and one is the PLDA. So of course, Bryson DeChambeau went straight from the Ryder Cup to go compete, and
which was I loved it.
Unbelievable.
I love that he would do that.
That was huge for our sport that he did that, and so that's called the PLDA, and they're actually moving the World Long Drive Championships just for women this year to Japan.
Wow.
So that's a big change. So I'm just looking at what my competition schedule looks like. Unfortunately, it's the same weekend as the Canadian Long Drive Championship. So I have to make that choice as to which competition I want to compete in. But it would be, what an amazing experience it would be to go to Japan. Yeah,
absolutely. Just want to back up a minute. You said something that I think just exudes who you are. And you said you became passionate about golf. And I think everything you do is passion. It's one of the things I love about you the most. Some of the other things you become passionate about, we were talking about just before we started, filming, is some of these golf schools, some of the other things you've done for the golf industry as a fantastic ambassador, not only in Canada, but around the world. Tell us a little bit about some of the golf schools, because those are things I didn't even wear. I mean, I knew you were doing them here locally, and, we're doing a few other ones, but I mean, this has grown into something huge.
It's unbelievable. Barry, I noticed the need when I was, I'm a golf entertainer at corporate and charity tournaments across North America. And at every event, there'd be anywhere from 75 to 85% of the attendees were men. And where were the women? The women were often back in the office doing the work while the guys were smartly doing the networking. Yeah. So I realized a real need. And when I started to talk to women, they said they were too intimidated. They said, I'm not good enough to go to a corporate or charity tournament. And I realized there was a need to help women get corporate and charity golf tournament ready, or just to get out there and enjoy this great game. Have fun. Right. But they just here's some basics to get started, and just again to help women. So I started a golf school just for women. It started in Calgary, out at Heritage Point, actually. So, and that's how it started. And then I started to see the need, so I expanded it, and I realized a lot of, especially Canadians, wanted to go south to work on their game in the winter. So I do schools in Orlando and Phoenix, and then this past year I added Montreal, Victoria, and Kelowna, and then this upcoming year I'm adding Toronto and Prince Edward Island. Wow. So, and there's women who are from all across North America who I reach out to me daily, Barry, saying, oh, Lisa, when is your golf school? And I think women want a community. Women want a place where they feel welcome, where they feel safe, that we can learn and grow together. And I think that's been a big part of the success.
Well, I still contend that one of the most difficult things about golf is that intimidation factor for people that aren't golfers, right?
Yes.
Like, even though nobody's paying attention, but it feels like you're in a fishbowl. So breaking those barriers down and building just an ounce of confidence and getting people a little bit more comfortable with how to hold a club, the proper way to stand. Some of those basics, I know that you're teaching those things.
Absolutely.
Those will break down the barriers and continue to grow the game, especially amongst women, which is fantastic.
No question. And that's also why, Barry, that, I do volunteer and give back so much to this game because this game has given me so much.
Right.
And so one of the things I'm proud of as well is that I'm the lead ambassador for Canada for Women's Golf Day since inception. So since the first day, I've volunteered hundreds of hours to grow women's golf in Canada. And Women's Golf Day is just that. It's a one-day event to help women feel, it's always the first Tuesday in June, to help women. And there's so many courses. Of course, Heritage Point has hosted great events, and so many here that have just done an incredible job welcoming women. We have veterans that come. We have brand new golfers that have never touched a club that they feel welcome to come. And then, as you said, we break down those barriers and kind of talk about, because they're worried about the rules and etiquette. What do I wear and where do I go and all of that, right?
Yeah, and you remind me, we've talked about the Women's Golf Day before, and it's something we really need to work on expanding, and
for sure,
not only amongst our clubs, but in general amongst the greater area, Calgary area and beyond. Because
absolutely,
what a great opportunity if they just have a good experience once. They're going to come back.
They will. And I've heard so many stories from women who have then gone on to purchase memberships or join leagues because they thought, oh my gosh, this was great. And they met wonderful women, and you don't know what you don't know. And that's what Women's Golf Day is, to get women here comfortable, and again, sharing with newcomers and veterans so that they have that great experience and come back.
Well, and frankly, I mean, I don't want to, talk about too much other things that we're working on, but it's one of the big things and the focus and emphasis for us at Launchpad.
Yes.
We want to have junior and women's golf leagues and opportunities where this is a casual entertainment environment where nobody's thinking about, standing on a tee with potentially other people watching about how well you're doing. Doesn't matter at all. So those barriers, we'll continue to work on them. You mentioned something else that I just want to dive into a little bit from a keynote speaker standpoint. I know that's a big part and focus of what you've been doing over the last number of years. Tell us a little bit how you got into that and some of those great experiences you've had.
Well, this is crazy. I was invited by the Oilman's Golf Tournament. It's a great tournament that is
big event, huge event. Right.
And they asked me to do the golf portion, but they said, Lisa, we would like you as our keynote speaker. Do you do that? And I'm like, yes, I do.
Absolutely.
Well, I do now.
Never done it, but sure.
So I worked my tail off to create and craft a speech to share my journey. Basically, the title of my signature keynote is Drive Determines Distance, because I truly believe knowing and being committed to what drives you determines how far you will go, both personally and professionally. So I basically share my story of how I went from a 30-plus high handicap recreational golfer to an 8-time Canadian long drive champion, ranked as high as second in the world. And what it is I share more about the failures. I've learned so much more from my failures than I ever have from my success.
We always do.
And so I share that journey, and I have had an opportunity to share my keynote all across North America at conferences and conventions. And what's great about it is that the majority of keynote speakers are men, and then when you go to mixed audiences that are perhaps 50% male and female, it's harder sometimes for a woman to resonate. But it's great because the women in the audience resonate with me as sometimes being a woman in a man's world, or how to break down barriers. And the guys are like, they want to hear about my Jack Nicklaus stories, my Arnold Palmer stories, and they're just so curious to learn about my background and how I got into golf. So I find golf is that great topic that I've been able to bring both men and women in on the speaking side of things.
Wow. I've never heard one of your keynotes other than some clips that I've seen, digitally on video, but man, I'd love to hear it, because
I will make sure you get invited to the next local one we have.
Thank you.
Yes.
You mentioned something just right now briefly, two legends, Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer, maybe two of the biggest names ever. You have experiences with them that you could share a little bit about?
Unbelievable. So I'll start with my Jack Nicklaus story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So in addition, so I kind of had this accidental career, Barry. So I started off, I believe teaching is a vocation, a calling. So I started off as an elementary school teacher, and I've taught elementary and junior high, absolutely passionate about teaching. And then I discovered this weird freaky...
How long did you do that for? How long were you teaching
for? So I started that would have been in 1997, and I taught for about 8 years before I started competing at an international level. And then when you start competing at a world-class level, I had to make a choice.
You can't do both.
You can't do both.
Right.
And my
Right.
husband, I didn't know which to do because I would have had to resign my school teaching position. And my husband said, Lisa, you have a limited chance to be the best in the world in something. And so go for it. So which is amazing. So he's been so supportive. So I resigned my school teaching position, but all of a sudden, then I have this opportunity to do keynote speaking, golf entertaining, running golf schools. And then something else that has come along is being a school teacher. I was approached by a major metropolitan newspaper to start writing a weekly golf column. So I became a golf journalist. Well, in my role as a golf journalist, I was at the Telus Skins game in Whistler, British Columbia. And it was this unbelievable experience. And all of a sudden, the players that were at the event were Big John Daly, Vijay Singh, Stephen Ames, and Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear himself. And it was just this unbelievable experience that he shared with us. His passion for fly fishing in British Columbia and Alberta. He feels that we should rein back technologies. He said, let's stop making golf courses longer and longer. He thinks we should rein back technology. Yeah. He actually shared with us at the time the recent loss of his grandchild in a hot tub accident, which was just so sad. And so we had this experience. Oh, and then Barry, he pulls outside of his pocket. This would have been 1 week before he played at St. Andrews. I believe it was 2005, his swan song to competitive golf at the British Open.
Right.
And he pulls out this blue 5-pound British note and his likeness is on it. It's got both of his British Open wins, all his scores, an image of himself, and his Jack Nicklaus Golden Bear logo. And he's the first non-royal to be featured on Scottish currency. And he said we could take a picture, but he said, just if you don't mind not posting it till after the British Open starts. And so having this intimate experience with him, and then I got to meet him afterwards and get a photo with him. He was delightful. Oh. So Jack Nicklaus, it was just unbelievable. I was so happy to meet him.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. I was actually in Whistler in September.
Okay, this past September.
Yeah, and those 4 names, Vijay, Jack, Stephen, their golf bags are still in the pro shop.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Did you see any bears when you were on the course?
We didn't see any bears. Yeah.
So I was doing a corporate outing at Whistler, like also in September. Yeah. I saw 5 bears on 5 different holes.
There's a ton of them there. I know there is.
And they just, now I will say the bear had great etiquette. He was walking on the apron. He walked on the apron. He didn't walk across the green, but what an experience. And then you had asked about my Arnold Palmer story.
Yeah, let's hear about that.
This is quite the story. So I was, my husband, his bucket list course, I've shared with you today, how supportive my husband was. So, how do you thank someone like that? So it took me 13 months, Barry, to save up enough money, just very quietly, so squirrel it away that my husband didn't see it. Yeah. And in a way, I shouldn't have done it because now my husband knows how much I can squirrel if I actually put my mind to it. But I squirreled. It took me 13 months. I squirreled enough to pay for a trip to Pebble Beach. Well, he was over the moon. So we walk into the pro shop, and the lady at the desk says, I said, we have a tea time at 12:30. She said, 12:30, Mr. and Mrs. Vlooswyk. I say, yes. And she said, great, you're joining the Smith twosome. I'm like, thank you. And she's like, well, you're playing behind Mr. Lester, Mr. Fredrickson, Mr. Palmer. We're like, oh, great, thanks very much for telling me. We walk out to the first hole on Pebble Beach, and who is standing? Mr. Palmer, because these are the people who play Pebble Beach on a regular basis, right? So, oh my goodness, like my husband's like, wow, that's really cool. I'm like, well, we're going to go say hi. He's like, no, Lisa, we're not going to say hi to Arnold Palmer. I'm like, oh, yes, we are. Hi, Mr. Palmer. My name's Lisa. I'm from Canada. And, he was so kind. No wonder there's Arnie's Army. No wonder he's the king. He greeted us. He took a photo with us on the first tee. And I got to watch Arnold Palmer hit off the first tee at Pebble Beach. He takes out his driver, absolutely splits the fairway. We're all clap, 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 clap.
Dead straight.
So, exactly. So, he kind of waves to us. And, even though it's like a Wednesday afternoon, not the U.S. Open. So off he goes. And then it's our turn to hit. And it was quite funny because I had the Smith twosome come up, and I got this, something that I get all the time is sometimes 2 gentlemen will find out that they're playing with me, and they're like, oh, great, I got paired with the chick, right? I'm playing my bucket list.
Little do they know,
right? So it's awesome. So anyway, I ended up, we tossed the tee, who would go first. It lands on me. I step back to the blues, one up from the tees, up from the tips. And the guys kind of do a double take, but they don't say anything. Starter comes over to me, a little long in the tooth. He's like 110. Excuse me, little missy, the ladies' tees are up there.
Oh, boy.
And I'm like, oh, thank you so much, but my handicap indicates I should play from the blue. No, all ladies need to play from the ladies' tees. And I thought, Barry, I didn't just pay $500 US, at a 67-cent Canadian dollar to play from the, 5,200 yards. So anyway, I went back to the blues, and so now I was, the group, Mr. Palmer's group it's the first hole at Pebble Beach is a dogleg right. So they're standing at the corner hitting their approach shots. And then the starter says to me, play away. And I said, well, actually, they're still in range. He looks at me. He looks at my club, which I was using a fairway wood at this point. I didn't want to hit it through the corner. And he knows Mr. Palmer hit driver. And you could see steam coming out of his ears. And he said, we take the pace of play very seriously here at Pebble Beach.
Wow.
After 2 warnings, you can be removed from the course, Well, after all of this hullabaloo, and of course, now there's people coming to watch. Now the corner's cleared. So I'm standing over my ball berry. And the only thing I'm thinking is, please don't cold top it.
I was going to say, you're nervous at this point, right?
Nervous
I would have been devastated.
Shaking, knees shaking. Anyway, luckily I ripped it down the pipe and I looked back at the starter. And the only thing he says to me, don't hit it into Mr. Palmer. Not good shot, not anything else. So
I wish you would have blown him a kiss.
Right. So like those 2 experiences, unbelievable.
So you played Pebble Beach. I've been there as well.
Oh.
You know, one of the things I remember, and I don't know if you remember this or if it's stuck in your mind, but it's continually something I reflect back to when I think about Pebble, is how small the green complexes are.
Oh, yes. Right? And when you're coming in, and then I noticed that, and then I don't know why I thought this. I kind of thought there's be more ocean. Like, so the first,
you kind of go inland, right?
Yeah. And gorgeous homes. Let's be clear that, 17-mile drive there. But I was like, and then you turn the corner on 3 and it's like, wow. Right. And then you come back after 10 and you go back in.
Yeah.
But it's magical because you've watched how many US Opens there, or how many of the PGA tournaments. And that's what I love about playing those bucket list courses is that you will see them again and again on the PGA Tour and go, oh, hey, I was behind that tree.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All I remember is like, I'm not sure I even hit hardly a green. Like,
because the green complexes
they were so small.
No, and you're nervous. And I had a caddy, your caddy.
Yeah, 100%.
And, right, but my caddy kept handing me driver. But I try to be more conservative sometimes. But basically, he said, you hit it, I'll find it. So which was funny because that's not normally in my full game. I'll be more responsible if I know if I can't get home in a par 5 and 2, I'll play smart golf.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's great. So did you end up seeing Arnold Palmer after, like, throughout the round at all?
No, so basically, I think they kind of gave him a little bit of extra, like, so once we then teed off and stuff, they kind of, and he was in a smaller group, so that I unfortunately didn't get to see him again. But interestingly enough, I was at the PGA show one year and I had a chance to tee it up at, oh my goodness, his golf course at Bay Hill. And now I didn't get to see him while I was there, but my playing partner took a picture of me doing a backflip. See, that gymnastics background comes in handy every once in a while. So I did a backflip in front of you
can still do backflips today.
Oh, to this day. Oh, yeah, no question.
Even at 31 years old.
Oh, yes, 31. That's right, Barry. And so it was so funny. So I did this backflip in front of the Bay Hill sign.
Right.
And so my the member who had brought me took a picture. Unbeknownst to me, in the mail, about 3 weeks later, I get this package from Bay Hill.
Yeah.
I open it up. It's an autographed picture of Mr. Palmer.
Wow.
And it's a blown up 8x10 of me doing the backflip with an Arnold Palmer signed it.
No way.
So the member brought it to Arnold Palmer. He was so tickled. He signed it for me and wrote it and then sent it back. Like, isn't that, like, that's who Arnold Palmer, that is who Arnold Palmer.
I mean, you hear these stories, right? But these little tidbits, they're just remarkable.
Right? Yeah. Like, just amazing, just amazing.
Love it. Okay, want to talk about a couple more things. One main thing, because this is personal to me.
Yeah.
But one of the things I wanted to mention as I kind of dovetail into this topic is you're the first person, I believe, ever to hit it over 350 yards in competition.
Woman. I'm the first woman. Yeah, first woman. So I was
right.
the first woman. And I only count, obviously, a sanctioned tour event. So I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I hit it 350 yards, 2 feet, 2 inches. I was the first woman to ever go over that 350-yard barrier, which I was so proud of at the time because it was just, it felt like butter. You know, when you hit that, and I think any golfer who's listening can relate to this, that feeling when it feels like butter, it feels completely effortless.
Just perfect.
It felt perfect, dead solid perfect. And so that was that shot.
So why I wanted to mention that is I've experienced that. You and I have gone head to head.
Toe to toe.
In a long drive competition. And you know what? Like, I hit it fairly long. Like, I'm 43 now.
Barry, you are sneaky long.
Right. But, and I've lost distance. There's no question. And I'm not making any excuses.
I can't even imagine what you did hit it.
Yeah. But, you and I think not this last summer, the summer before.
Yeah, that's right.
Late in the year.
Yep, that's right.
We had a long drive competition. I'm going to let you share the experience, and then we're also going to maybe redo that again in 2022.
Oh,
my game's been coming back to me a little bit.
Someone wants a rematch.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess I better get out to launch pad and start hitting balls then this
Exactly.
winter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you and I, we went to the Loop, which in my opinion, I think the Loop is the best kept secret in Calgary golf.
It's fun.
It's a par 3, a par 4, and a par 5.
Yeah.
And of all 30 holes on the Heritage Point property, I would say that the third hole might be, that's my second favorite, only to the ninth hole on Heritage.
Right.
That's, yeah.
Right.
So that little, we went to the Loop, we went to the third hole, and we start ripping drivers, and we had spotters on either side,
Yeah.
and we had cameras, and we had spotters, so it was legit.
Yeah.
And I believe I took you in the first round by a few yards in the first round,
Right.
and then you took me in the second round,
Right.
and then in the third round, boom! I got a good one in there.
Yeah.
And again, but you and I were pretty darn close there.
The third round actually was not very close. I think
was it not close?
No, I think you blew
Was
by
I
me
do-
like
okay.
20
Oh,
yards.
yes.
It sounded
Yes.
better for what we're talking about.
But I do know we were close. Okay, you're right. We were
Yeah.
close the first two rounds, and then I think I did hit a really, really solid one that third one and
Well,
snuck
I'm
one
going to
by.
be ready in 2022.
Okay, bring it on. I like it.
When we did it, I had been taking quite a hiatus from golf with a back injury,
Yeah.
but it's starting to
You've
come
been
back
working
a
on
little
your
bit.
game.
Been working on a little
Okay,
bit. So
okay.
I'm going to go up there and Superman it and see if I can hit a few good ones.
I
So,
love it. I love
yeah.
it.
Well, Lisa, this is remarkable. We could sit here all day long and share experiences and stories without question. You're the best. Keep doing what you're doing. We are proud to have you not only in Calgary, but Canada as one of the best ambassadors. I know Callaway loves you. I know people at Callaway, they speak so highly of you and all the remarkable people that you work with. It's hardly like the amount of times your name gets brought up in conversations, especially here where your home is just remarkable. So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Barry.
Yeah.
I'm so honored, and I'm so honored to be part of the golf community, not only in Calgary, but in Canada. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Swing Hard podcast. We're going to bring Lisa back again sometime for sure. If you're not subscribed, please do so. We'd appreciate it. We'll be back soon with another episode.